If you're a Locked On Blue Devils everydayer, you know that Dick Vitale does the open for the show each and every day. He recently was able to put together his top 25 for the upcoming college basketball season. Where does Dickie V think the Duke Blue Devils can finish? Let's find out.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man. The Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson, and it's so great to have you here with us on this Monday, August 28th, 2023. Excuse me, it's a Tuesday. It's Tuesday, August 29th, 2023, and we're so excited to be talking about all things Duke basketball as we get set for another exciting season for Jon Scheyer leading this Duke basketball program. We're going to be talking about Dickie V's newest top 25. Assistant coach Chris Carrawell had some comments about this Duke program going into the upcoming season, the pace in which they would play. So we'll discuss all of that and other things here on today's show with our good pal Kevin Connelly, the site expert for Ball Durham. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free wherever you get your podcast. Also, be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and written review. You can watch the show daily on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button to our YouTube channel. Like this video. Share it with your friends, as your support means the absolute world to us here at Locked On Blue Devils. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get going in today's show. And let me bring on my good pal, Kevin Connelly, who is, in fact, the site expert for Ball Durham. September is almost here, Kevin. We talked a good bit about football on yesterday's show, answering some of those mailbag questions. What we're talking about today, though, is basketball heavy, and I know you and I are really excited for the basketball team this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, high expectations coming into the season, and everything now pointing in late August, early September that this is going to be a fun winter around the Blue Devil program.
Chris Carrawell is a former Duke men's basketball player. He has been on the staff for a number of years at this point, serving on both Mike Krzyzewski's staff and Jon Scheyer's staff, one of the associate head coaches of this program. He met with the media recently, and one of the big talking points was the pace in which this Duke team would play with. Tell me a little bit about this, Kevin.
Well, yeah, but it's just an evolution of the style of play. We talked about it a little bit in your mailbag on Monday, that Duke is going to be a lot more of a freer team offensively because there's not going to be 2 7-footers on the floor in Derek Lively and Kyle Filipowski. That allows the guards to have a lot more room to operate. Same thing with the wings. It also gives Filipowski, whether he plays on the inside and the outside, more room to work. So the pace, there's going to be more pace. There's going to be more flow, more movement on the offense. And I mean, we've even seen it in these videos that the Duke basketball social media accounts have posted on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, that everyone can get a rebound and run. It doesn't matter who it is. If you're getting a rebound, you're pushing the ball and you're running. So it feels like there's going to be a lot more pace, and kind of what we hinted at in that mailbag episode with how many points is this team going to score. And we were both in that low to mid 80 range. Is they're going to be running a lot and they're going to be scoring a lot. And it seems like they have the dogs to do it.
Let's spoil it for people. Go back and listen to the Mailbag Monday episode to see all of our answers to those questions. But I stole your answer. We said 81.5, the number of points that the Duke basketball team would average this upcoming season. So picking up the pace is one thing. As you mentioned, spacing is an element of it as well. When you've got Derek Lively on the inside, obviously things can get a little clogged. We talk about Duke's guards, and we talked a good bit about three-point shooting yesterday, but also Proctor, Roach, McCain, Foster, Mitchell even on the wing from the outside. If there's more space around the rim, they can just put the ball on the deck, Kevin, and attack the rim. So disregard shooting for a moment. The spacing element of this opens up way more dribble drive lanes.
And that's not even factoring in freshmen like TJ Power or Sean Stewart, who also have the ability in that mid-range game. Power can step out a little bit more beyond the arc too. And let's be honest, this team is very deep. We've all talked about it. We haven't even mentioned Jalen Blakes or Jaden Schutt yet, and then we haven't gotten into the front court behind Filipowski with potentially Christian Reeves or Ryan Young as well. So, it's going to be really interesting. I think people were a little bit concerned last year how John Shire didn't have like a nailed down rotation. He finally found that before that winning streak really happened in mid-February. I think it's even going to be more difficult on him this year to find those 8 to 9 guys that he's going to put out there on the floor when the games become more important and you're inching closer to the ACC and the NCAA tournament, where you have to have full confidence in your 8 guys to go out there and play.
The Duke basketball players on this roster, when we're talking spacing, how does this help their three-point shooting?
It helps it a lot. It should help it a lot because opposing defenses are going to have to guard more area of the floor. I mean, when you have 2 7-footers out there who aren't threats from the outside, you would think it could collapse a defense, but not really. It just makes it easier to guard those on the perimeter because you don't really have a threat of a pick and pop. It's anything but a pick and roll. So, yeah, Duke was great at getting shots to the rim and letting the 2 7-footers go to work and get the offensive rebounds and then score that way. But when you have 4 to sometimes even 5 players that can shoot the ball from 3-point range, you're expanding the defense. Now, when you go to set an on-ball screen, you have the ability to roll to the basket, or you could fade back out to the perimeter and try and set up that 3-point shot. So I think this team's going to have a lot more options offensively, not just in who can score the ball and how they can score the ball, but the variety of ways in which they're going to score.
So you want this Duke team to play fast then? Like when you're thinking about the pace element of this, we talked about spacing. As a basketball viewer, I certainly really love watching an up-tempo bunch. Like, let's get the rebound, let's kick it out, and let's go and push the thing.
Yeah, I think that's the way they should play. That seems like that's the way they're going to play. It's pretty interesting. So you think of a team that plays fast, and a team that plays fast kind of has to play deep because you're running so much. You get tired a little bit faster. Number one, you do have to be in great shape to play up tempo. But we all saying this Duke team is going to be very deep, so that plays right into the hands of, okay, let's play up tempo, let's play fast, let's play push the pace, play as hard as you can for 3 to 4 minutes, tap out. We have somebody on the bench who can come in and play equally, if not better, than you. And you talk about, especially now, especially at the NBA level, it's all about possessions, right? Everyone talks about possessions and 3-point shots and all that. That's kind of what Chris Carrawell's big message was when the Duke basketball assistant coaches met the media for the first time this offseason. It was, everything's a possession game. We want to have as many possessions as we can because more possessions, in theory, equals more points. That's what it comes down to. It's everything you talk about in sports, basketball, football, whatever, it's always a numbers game. More of possessions you have, the more likely you are to have more points. And the more points you have, you're more likely to win.
Yeah, no theory to it. You score more points than the other team, you're going to win the game in basketball, and that's certainly what we're aiming for there. Go and make sure you check out balldurham.com. Chris Carrawell did meet with the media just a little bit ago, and Kevin Conley's got an excellent recap up there on the website for you to check out. All right, where does this Duke team rank? Big picture in the top 25. Beloved college basketball reporter, analyst, so much more. Dick Vitale, Dickie V, has the Blue Devils where in his top 25? We'll tell you after our first time out here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends at Betterhelp. Indeed, the show is sponsored by Betterhelp. Sometimes in life, we're faced with tough choices, and the path forward isn't always clear. Whether you're dealing with decisions around your career, relationships, or anything else, therapy helps you stay connected with what you really want while you navigate life, so you can move forward with confidence and excitement. Trusting yourself to make decisions that align with your values is like anything. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with the licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com BetterHelp.com/LockedOnCollege today to get 15% off your first month. Excuse me, that's 10%. That's BetterHelp.com/LockedOnCollege to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnCollege. Moving forward here on today's episode of Locked On College, JJ Jackson alongside my pal, Kevin Connelly. This is Locked On Blue Devils. We're talking about Duke basketball, and we're talking about the beloved college basketball analyst and reporter, Dick Vitale. Look, before we even get into his top 25, Dickie V's love for Duke basketball, the Cameron Crazies' love for Mr. Vitale himself. I mean, that's just, when you think of college basketball and watching it on ESPN over the last 3, 4, or 5 decades, Kevin, it feels as though you're always thinking about Mr. Vitale with those Cameron Crazies.
Yeah, absolutely. You're always thinking of where he's going to be on that Saturday and what game he's going to call, or even during the weekend. The way he interacts with all fan bases. It seems like everybody just embraces him, and he's the epitome of he's there to have a good time. It's like he can't believe that they're paying him to do this. He would do it for free. It's kind of crazy. But certainly well wishes continue to go out to him as he continues his fight and his battle against cancer. He does so much for pediatric cancer and the V Foundation. So continued support to him and prayers out to him. And hopefully he's able to be back in the booth in November when college basketball starts.
No kidding. I mean, really enjoyed getting the chance to chat with him here on this podcast. Having him kind of record our intro for us is something that I'll never, ever forget. And just thinking about his relationship with Duke and the Cameron Crazies over the years is something that I absolutely love and admire. I think a lot of people would call Dickie V a Duke homer. I would not be one of those people, considering I'm a diehard Duke basketball fan, and we absolutely love how much he loves Duke. So, let's just kind of get right into it. We're talking about his recent top 25 and where he has the Duke Blue Devils. We did this a few weeks ago with Jeff Borzello from ESPN. Dickie V released his as well, his preseason top 25 teams. And Kevin, Duke is one of the best. He's got them at number 2.
Yeah, it seems like that's the consensus right now. Duke, Kansas, Kansas, Duke. It seems like those are the 2 teams that everyone really has battling for that top 2 spots. And Dickie V slots Duke at number 2. And you really can't complain anytime you see Duke at 2. It's still kind of all superficial in a sense that these rankings coming out in late August and early September. And it takes still now 2 months for us to get on a basketball court and finally decide everything. But yeah, you can't complain too much about Duke being number 2.
Kansas is his preseason number 1. He writes for ESPN.com. Challenging Kansas will be Duke at number 2. Kyle Filipowski's return shores up the Blue Devils front court. Filipowski stayed out of the last NBA draft and could move into a lottery position next June. The return of Tyrese Proctor and Mark Mitchell, along with Jeremy Roach running the offense, puts Duke as a front runner in the ACC. Look for newcomer Jared McCain to step up on the wing. So high praise for guys returning, and Jared McCain getting the buzz amongst the freshmen.
Yeah, Jared McCain, it seems like he is the freshman that is generating the most buzz on this Duke basketball team. I mean, everyone wants to talk about the returners, and that's kind of a surprise for Duke. Typically, on a Duke basketball roster, everyone's talking about the freshmen, and it's 4 or 5-star freshmen that are entering Duke for this upcoming season. And it seems like they're all flying under the radar. None of them are top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ranked positional wise, or I should say player wise throughout the country. But Jared McCain continues to churn out positive news and positive momentum about him. And like I said, I really see him sliding into that small forward, quote unquote, role on opening night and being the starter.
So Kansas 1, Duke 2. That seems to be the consensus, as you said, with pretty much everyone we're talking to or kind of the rankings that we're reading. Why Kansas at 1 over Duke? It's probably what a lot of Duke fans are asking.
Yeah, it seems like the biggest thing that pushed Kansas over the top was the addition of Hunter Dickinson, the Michigan transfer. You throw in a couple of returnees, and then you add the other big transfer that they got from Townsend and Nick Timberlake. It feels like him and Dickinson were the real reason that Kansas gets pushed over the top of Duke to become that preseason number one team. Hunter Dickinson, all-world player in the Big Ten for Michigan, All-American candidate, preseason, probably will be a preseason first-team All-American, I would assume, even might be the preseason Big 12 player of the year. So that's the biggest reason why Kansas is getting that top spot over Duke right now.
We're talking about Dickie V's top 25 in the preseason here for the upcoming college basketball season. Number 1, Kansas. Number 2, Duke. Purdue is 3rd. Michigan State 4. UConn 5. Marquette 6. Number 7, the Houston Cougars. 8 is Creighton. 9 is Tennessee. 9 is Gonzaga. And 10 is Tennessee. Looking at that top 10, who jumps out to you?
Oh, again, you jump immediately to Arizona, right? Because you look down that list of teams that are playing. Michigan State is early on the Duke schedule. Arizona is early on the Duke schedule. So if you're kind of keeping your blinders on and looking straight ahead, those are the two teams that immediately stand out because Duke's going to have a chance against them in the first week of the season.
Let's keep taking a look at this top 25 from Dickie V and wrap up our conversation with my pal Kevin Connelly, the site expert for Ball Durham, when we continue here in a moment. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Football season is right around the corner. A lot of college football games this upcoming week, which means next week the NFL is back. Get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can be on everything from spreads to player props and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Final few moments here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. JJ Jackson alongside my pal Kevin Connelly, who is the site expert for Ball Durham. I mentioned the website a little bit earlier, but give it another plug, Kevin.
They could read us, balldurham.com. Follow us on Twitter at ball_Durham. All the Duke news and notes and opinions and articles that you guys might need, we got them over there. Duke basketball, Duke football, anything Duke athletics, Duke in the pros. We got it all over there at balldurham.com. So come give us a read. Come give us a check out, and I think you'll be happy.
All right, let's keep it moving. We're going through the top 25 for Dickie V. We did the top 10. Number 11, FAU. 12 was Arizona. 13, Kentucky. 14, Arkansas. 15, North Carolina. 16, Miami. 17, Texas A&M. 18, Villanova. 19, San Diego State. USC is 20. Looking at the top 20, what do you see?
Well, you look at that top 20, and again, you add another team that Duke's going to see on their schedule in Arkansas. I feel like that's arguably the biggest game on the schedule because Duke has to go to Fayetteville and play the Razorbacks.
On the road,
So true road game for Duke, and you got 3 teams in that top 20 that Duke's going to play in the non-conference schedule, and then you just got to go one spot lower to find your 4th team in Baylor in a neutral site game at Madison Square Garden. So again, it's a really loaded non-conference schedule for Duke. They're going to challenge themselves, and if you are a Duke fan, you want those teams to win as much as they can, obviously, besides when they're playing Duke. But you want those metrics to rise to give Duke's metrics a boost and trying to lock down a top seed in the NCAA tournament come March. Now, I know when it's November and December, you might not really be thinking about those things of wanting teams like Michigan State and Arizona and Arkansas and Baylor to win. But if they do have a big game on their non-conference schedule outside of Duke, you would want to tune in maybe a little bit and root for them to win.
Yeah, it helps if they win, certainly, because it boosts everything Duke is trying to do. If Duke wins, right? That's what the kind of disclaimer that we throw in with all of this. Arkansas at number 14 in Dickie V's top 25. A lot of big-time games with the Razorbacks over the years when you look at these two schools, and now we're going to get to see them in an ACC-SEC challenge. But we think back to just a few years ago and Duke's run to the Final Four. And then, of course, prior to being on the earth, myself and for you included, Kevin, back in 1994, Mr. Grant Hill's career ended in a national championship game loss to the Arkansas Razorbacks. That one still stings a little bit. We say 91 and 92 pretty easily. I wish we could throw in 94 as well to the national titles that Duke has won.
Yeah, there's a couple of games that really sting in the hearts of the Duke faithful. You look at the game against Connecticut. You look at that game against Arkansas. There's a couple that stick out for a lot of, obviously, the North Carolina games from last year. So there's a couple that are still going to leave those fresh and open wounds anytime they get brought up.
I'm one of the people who's trying to forget that Final Four game against the Tar Heels just a few years ago. All right, and then finally the last five: 21 Baylor, 22 St. Mary's, Texas is 23, Colorado 24, St. John's 25. So not only do we have Baylor, who Duke will see in Madison Square Garden, let's not forget one of the most common opponents in the non-conference that Duke has played throughout their history, St. John's, back in the top 25, a school you know a whole lot about, Kevin, and a program that maybe we'll see more of that Duke-St. John's kind of rivalry renewed in the years to come.
Yeah, certainly they're a team on the rise. The biggest splash in the coaching carousel, hiring Rick Pitino. There's a lot of ties between the two programs. Unfortunately, you're not going to see another Mike Krzyzewski, Rick Pitino battle, but perhaps the John Shire, Rick Pitino battle could be coming down the line. And obviously the ties to Duke, St. John's athletic director Mike Cragg obviously spent close to 20, 30 years around Duke athletics and the Duke basketball program. So a lot of ties between St. John's and Duke. And who knows, maybe in a couple of years we'll see those two teams square off in a non-conference game once again.
Yeah, haven't played since 2019, but there have been 24 total meetings between the two schools. So seriously, if you look at, of course, the ACC, those numbers are going to be very inflated with the volume in which Duke plays opponents. 24 matchups all time against St. John's, and Duke's got a 17-7 record against the Red Storm.
Yeah, the Red Storm they've come down to Cameron prior to that loss, that non-conference loss. I believe it was against Stephen F. Austin. St. John's is the last non-conference team to beat Duke inside of Cameron Indoor Stadium. So that's a record that's no more for the Red Storm, but certainly one that's always was a footnote in the history of Duke basketball.
Let's give some love to the very first meeting between the two schools, Duke and St. John's, all the way back in 1938. St. John's won the basketball game 44-28. What an exciting basketball game that must have been, Kevin.
It's always crazy when you see games from those years and even further back of games ending like 9-7 or 7-2, even a score like that in the 40s, in the mid 40s to the low 20s. It's always crazy to me. And you're like, man, like, I guess it was in that era, like it was still exciting. Like we think a 96-92 game was exciting. It's always crazy to me.
1938 could still never even envision the 3-point line, right? I mean, you're years and years and years from that being factored into the equation. Man, that's a lot of fun. Well, there's our top 25, several opponents on Duke's schedule for this upcoming season, and really fun to kind of look how Dick Vitale assesses Duke going into the upcoming year. Should have a lot more news and notes around the Duke basketball program. John Shire is hinting at potential captains for this team, as we've talked about a lot lately. And of course, Kevin, you've got all of these basketball stories over at your website. Recruiting continues to move forward. Haven't got that next commit yet, but it feels like we're due, man. Maybe something's coming soon.
Yeah, who knows? Still got a couple big fish out there. Cooper Flagg and Dylan Harper are 1A and 1B. Obviously, Duke seems like they're in better position right now with Cooper Flagg compared to Dylan Harper, but who knows? Recruiting's a fluid thing, and anything can change at any given time. And then you look at a couple of deeper prospects in 2024 as well, like Patrick Ngaba, VJ Edgecombe, and then obviously you turn the page to 2025, and everyone's going to talk about the Boozers, Caden and Cameron, potentially coming to Duke as well.
Can't wait. We'll be following it all on your website, balldurham.com, and you'll be back with us again here soon on the program. Thanks for stopping by today, Kevin.
Thanks, JJ.
All right, that's Kevin Connelly, again, the site expert for Ball Durham, joining us here on today's episode of Locked on Blue Devils. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you so much for your support here of the program. We'll be back at it tomorrow with another new installment of Locked on Blue Devils. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.